Go to the cloud. All right, I will start sharing my screen. All right, we've made it to session 4 of the new application training. We're going to start off today with answering any questions that you might have. I could go over the agenda. Then we'll talk about the submission and how we want you to submit the applications, what the next steps are, and then what an implementation year looks like. Does anybody have any questions so far on the application? Chris, are you familiar? Do you feel confident in knowing what you need to do for next year in order to submit your NOI correctly and timely?
I think we're getting there. We're seeing lots of work to do, social interaction with the community so that we can document stuff, things of that nature.
Right. But you just need to make sure that you are, because you can't actually apply this year because you didn't do the notice of intent in January. So next year, you'll want to make sure before the second Tuesday, is it the second Tuesday of the month? Yeah, before the second Tuesday of January, that you put in your notice of intent to both the state and the district in which you're going to be you intend to be located. And you'll find that notice of intent on the Public Education Department's website for the PEC, the Public Education Commission, and you would look for the district in which, the geographic district in which you would locate your school, that district's paperwork for notification. And those both need to be submitted before the second Tuesday of January in order to be able to have a success, to actually apply. Veronica, do you have any questions with regards to your application, your process so far?
Well, they're working on all of that. I'm just the legwork when they give me the paperwork.
Okay. All right, so for submitting the applications, we will be, I will be sending you each of your teams emails individually. Karen, let me know what school I would need to include you with. We'll have the Google, through a Google folder, and I have some screenshots. So the applications must be complete. So you cannot add more information after you submit the application. So if you have not included your budget or a narrative, or you've forgotten to complete one of the indicators, there's no opportunity for you to provide that information after the submission day of June 1st. The PEC is the ones who make the decision as to whether or not to let a school go on to their implementation year. But the Public Education Department has put out a request for reviewers, independent peer reviewers, that closes today, and we'll start the process of selecting the peer reviewers and training the peer reviewers. And so after June 1st, they will get your applications and they will start reading them. The peer reviewers are going to be professionals in the field of New Mexico charter schools, a current head administrator, current business manager, or retired teacher, and they will start the process of reviewing the entire document and rating whether or not it meets the criteria, approaches the criteria, or does not meet the criteria. The public education commissioners also read through the applications and they will base their decision on the peer review analysis, the capacity interview, peer review analysis, the community input hearing, which will happen in July, and your application. So there's a lot of reading is about to take place of all of your hard work that you've been working on with your applications. So, but it must be complete, and you will not be able to give the commission any additional information beyond your application. So keep that in mind. You want it to be as complete as possible. And so this is an example. I've set up folders that I will share out with each team, and you will then upload your applications here, and I will give you instructions on what kind of access we will need to have. So that'll be an individual email. That won't be a group email that I send out to everybody. I'll be sending emails to each group of people. So I need, for most of you, I have a single email address. Like for the Phoenix Learning Academy, I just have Tiffany Walker's email. So if other people are going to be having access to the Google folder for your school application, I would like to have that, please, so that I can share it. Although actually, once I share it with you, then you can share it with whomever you'd like, because you'll have editor access. So I don't need that information. You can do that on your own. We do ask that you name them in a particular way. This is so the peer reviewers don't have to search hither and yon for your parts of your application, right? It's easy for us to determine whether or not all of the parts of your application are here. And it's easy for you to be able to know that you've put in all of the different parts of the application. And so we would really like you to use this naming protocol. So, executive summary _ and then your school name. You can use, say, for Phoenix Learning Academy, you could either type out Phoenix, or you could type out Phoenix Learning Academy, or you could type out PLA. We understand there aren't, Academy Relational Learning would be ARL. So just make sure that we know what it is, that which school it is. So if you want to type out the whole thing, that's fine. Do we have Explore Academy with us? No, we don't. So this will help us verify, and you verify, that you've got everything uploaded. Any questions? I will probably ask you, when I email each individual team, I will ask you to upload a test document, just some document. It can be a blank piece of paper that says test, or is titled test, so that I know and you know that you are uploading correctly into the folder. Does anybody have any questions about the uploading process?
No.
Okay. So what happens after June 1st, right? So June 1st, no later than 5 p.m. your Mountain Standard Time, your application is due. Then the technical peer review period starts. I think I said earlier it starts on June 1st. Clearly it starts on June 2nd. And we give them a very short turnaround to do that. They have till June 23rd to do that. Each team member so the peer review have a team of a minimum of 3. Like I said, a school administrator, a school business manager, and a teacher, all who have worked in New Mexico charter schools. One of those is assigned as the lead of the team. Each individual reads through your entire application and rates your responses using the rubric that was embedded in the application. And they will rate that as either meets the criteria, approaches the criteria, or does not meet the criteria. And then that team will come together and they will come to agreement on a rating for each. So in other words, if for your first response on your mission, 2 people rate it as meets and the other rates it as approaches or does not meet, then they have to discuss, what's your reasoning for the meets, what's your reasoning for the approaches, and they have to come to alignment about that. So then they're creating a single final document with the agreed upon rating, and they will come up with questions to ask during the capacity interview to help clarify some of the issues. And so, you can clarify your application through the capacity interview and through the community input hearings, but you won't be able to provide additional information. You won't be able to pull out something that's new and say, this new information should give you more clarity. That's something you can only do through explaining what you've written. So then before the capacity interview, the peer reviewers will come up with their preliminary analysis. They will rate your application and come up with this number of indicators meets standard, this number of indicators approaches, and this number of indicators do not meet. You will get a copy of that, and the Public Education Commission will get a copy of that. Your team, we will be determining hopefully mid-July, not mid-July, mid-June, when your capacity team interviews will be. This will be during the week of July 6th to the 8th. This will be during the work day and on Zoom. So making sure that your team is going to be available for that process. Sorry, I've got cat interference. Then the capacity interview, the peer review team will also be rating the questions and whether or not they feel like you met the expectations, approached, or did not meet. And they will provide a preliminary analysis of that. Again, that will go to you and it will go to the Public Education Commission. The week of July 18th to 20th, we will be scheduling the public community input hearings. These will happen in the community in which you intend to locate. So for Phoenix Learning Academy, that's going to be in Alamogordo. For the Academy of Relational Learning, I think that they're in Albuquerque. So we've got Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Rio Rancho, Alamogordo. So those will be set up. And again, they're going to be during the workday. And as soon as we get those dates to you and locations, you would want to make sure that you are sharing those with your supporters and your team. You want your team to be present. These will be in person. Then by August 5th, the Charter Schools Division has to provide to the school and the Public Education Commission their final recommendation on whether to approve the application or deny the application. Whatever the Charter Schools Division says, whether or not their opinion is to approve or deny, the Public Education Commission only considers it as part of all of the information. That does not guarantee that they will approve. It does not guarantee that they will deny. And then on August 19th, the PEC will have a public meeting. They have to decide whether or not to approve your application for implementation year no later than September 1st. I've been working here since September of 2017. I've never seen them not, they always tell the schools on the day of the August meeting whether or not they are approved to enter the implementation year. I have yet to see a school that had to wait to another date. So the September 1 date is in statute. The Public Education Commission cannot make that decision in a private meeting. They have to make it in a public meeting. So, they would have to meet between August 22nd and August 31st. They have a week and a half. But again, my historical expectations would be that anybody who makes it through the process to here is going to know on August 19th whether they are approved to enter their implementation year or not. Now, any school that is not approved to enter their implementation year is more than welcome to reapply in the following year. But know that you have to still complete the notice of intent requirement in January. So if you put through your application and the PEC says they do not approve you to go into implementation year, you can start the process over again, and that begins in January of 2023, in which you would, by the second Tuesday of the month, put in your notice of intent to the Public Education Commission and the district in which you intend to be located. And then these trainings will be offered again, and you'll just go through the whole process again. Any questions on that timeline? So if you're approved to advance into your implementation year, that would happen in August and certainly no later than September 1. And then starting in September are the required trainings. These trainings for the new applicants have not been required. You did not have to attend them. The implementation year trainings are required. If a school does not attend them, then they risk not being allowed to open. And the risk there would be that they would have to do the implementation year again, but it would push back your opening for over a year. So one of the things to think about is if you are approved, your business manager will have to attend the fall NMASBO conference, which is in the month of September. So if you're going to have an in-house business manager or you're going to have a contractor, certainly if you have a contractor such as a V-Hill Group or K-12 Accounting, some of the established business managers, they're probably already going to be going to the fall budget conference. So this is really only going to be something to have, on your radar if you're going to be choosing somebody who's not already established as a charter school business manager. And in thinking about who you're going to have for your business manager, I think that, there aren't a lot of choices, but there certainly are choices in our state. And so thinking about, how are you going to vet that person, that group. What are you going to do? You can certainly, the audits for charter schools are open to the public, and, think about what kind of questions. This is a service that your school is paying for. And so what kind of service can you expect for the money that they're going to be paid? I think are reasonable things for you to consider asking. So the monthly trainings for the implementation year start in September. They go through April. They are on Mondays, like these trainings have been, once a month. Your board will be required to complete their 10 hours of training with the Charter Schools Division. That should be something that they schedule to get done as early in the fiscal year as possible. So September, October time. They certainly can start in August if they would like, or even July. But you might want to wait until you have official approval. So again, that's something to consider. The implementation year consists of 3 very comprehensive checklist submissions. The first one is November 15th, the second one is March 1st, and the third one is May 15th. The things that we're looking for are policies, procedures, job descriptions, handbooks, everything to do with your budgeting, getting your student management system that has to be compatible with the PEDS, getting your fiscal management system, which has to be compatible with the PED, getting a DUNS number, your federal tax ID, things like that, bank accounts, and some of the things are, a plan to get there. We'll have a plan in place to have our Safe and Healthy Schools plan ready for approval by December of our first year of opening. So it's an intensive time that's going to be requiring a lot of work. Your board will have to start posting their meetings and having agendas and meeting minutes and things like that. You'll be doing recruiting activities. You're going to really need to be by the March submission, starting to be able to give evidence to how many students you anticipate. So, these would be lottery interests and things like that. How many how much interest in the lottery are we getting? What kind of recruiting activities are we doing? So there's a lot of work in the implementation year section. And this is, I've noticed that some of the applicant teams have been coming more than just one person to the trainings. The implementation year is not a one-person job. You're not going to be successful if you don't have a team. So having team members that can dedicate time, this is a very difficult job for one person to be able to be successful. So again, to get to the implementation year, so you go through the implementation year, you do the checklist on November 15th, March 1st, May 15th. Then in June of 2023, the PEC votes on commencement of operations. And if they vote for you to commence operations, then you will get funding July 1. You should not, unless you have written a grant or have deep pockets, you should not expect any money from the state of New Mexico until July 1. So think about your building. How are you going to procure a building? And make sure that it has e-occupancy and is approved to be a school. All those types of things need to be in place and ready to go oftentimes before you start getting money deposited in the bank from the state, unless you have outside grant money. The Charter Schools Division will perform an opening site visit prior to your opening. So you will have to tell us what your opening date is. Like say your opening date is August 8th, then the Charter Schools Division would have a site visit scheduled around July 25th to come and see the school and make sure that you have everything in place. And then, like I said, in December, the other big thing is that in December of that first year, you have to have your Safe and Healthy Schools plan in, and that is another very large document with a lot of things that have to be thought through, thought out, discussed with a team, and put into place. So once you open your doors, all time evaporates. and it's just like, somebody shut off the starter gun and you're in a race. And so the implementation year is a lot of hard work, but it's that time in which you can think through all the things that you're going to be facing to run a charter school. And in part, we do have you start out and make a plan for your Safe and Healthy Schools plan during that time. So making sure that, you really get that, a lot of that done, because you don't want to be late with that then moving forward in your charter. During the implementation year, every single month, different bureaus come and meet with us and talk about the requirements of their bureaus and how to successfully communicate with them, what their needs are. So it's not just the Charter Schools Division overseeing your work in the Public Education Commission. It's the special ed, it's the Language and Culture Bureau, it's school budget people, college and career readiness, accountability, assessment. There's a whole bunch of people about to become your best friends once you're approved to enter your implementation year. So that is what I have for you today. Any questions?
Just
the group. All right. Well, if there are no questions, there's nothing else to really talk about on our end, so we won't have a training scheduled for May. This will be our final training session, and the next email you'll get from me will be regarding giving you access to your group. David?
One quick question, and that is, you're talking about these numerous bureaus that will show up, and I didn't understand whether that was in the implementation year or after the school is actually opened, after that December full Safe and Healthy School plan is due.
Very good question. So during the implementation year training, so every month, so September, I will invite certain bureaus. So there's no set schedule. I just get who I can get for each month. And so like in September, we might have licensure bureau and school budget. In October, we might have accountability and assessment, language and culture bureau. So each month we have bureaus come and present to the implementation year schools. You move from being the new applicant schools to the implementation year schools. And it's your opportunity as a new approved charter or approved to enter your implementation year.
And this is what you've described as the required training, which is best for multiple team members,
Yes.
if not all the team members, to participate in during the implementation year.
Right, including
Okay.
board members, yeah.
Okay. I appreciate the review of that. My question really was talking about something that you mentioned after we got all the way down to the December full and safe, healthy schools plan must be submitted.
Mhm.
And then I thought you were talking about different team members will come or different cultural groups and
yeah,
so on
so-
will come. And,
Yeah.
and clarify that for me, please.
So I was referring to the implementation year training, so that throughout the implementation year trainings, we have different bureaus come. But so once you're a fully fledged school, you're not
And
just
open.
and open. You're not just responsible and answerable to Charter Schools Division of the Public Education Commission. You are answerable to all of Public Education Department. And so, Special Education Bureau might be coming to your school for issues. You'll have a school budget liaison that you're going to be directly dealing with. If you have tribal consultations that you have to do because of your population or your location, Indian Ed's going to be involved. If you have a bilingual program that you've had approved, then Language and Culture Bureau is going to be working with your school. So if you have high school kids, if you have seniors, College and Career Readiness Bureau is going to be liaising with you. So all these different bureaus will now be able to liaise with you, and the implementation year trainings are those introductions that we give the schools and the PED bureaus those opportunities to get to understand who you each are, what your pedagogy is, what your reason to exist is, and then you to understand these are the requirements, like the assessment bureau, the DTC coordinator, testing, and all of the things that go into you're going to have a myriad of reporting due to a variety of bureaus on a regular basis throughout the PED bureau. And
these additional reporting requirements, if I can characterize them that way, will be in addition to what CSD requires, or
we tend to. So what CSD does then is, you're launched,
Right.
you open your school, and then what we do is we do annual site visits where we come and monitor how you're doing with regards to your mission-specific goals, fulfilling the requirements of your contract and your performance framework. We try to make those visits more technical assistance geared. So because when we're doing site visits right now, annual site visits with our charter schools, and one of the things we do is we look through a sampling of employee staff files. And if we find in our sampling that you don't have employee background checks, we're going to let you know.
Sure.
Employee background check. The goal is that it's better so Charter Schools Division coming in to say, hey, fix this. If we don't catch it, if we don't help you catch that, the auditor might catch that, and then it becomes an audit finding, and you didn't
Sure.
get.
And then it becomes rougher to deal with.
Right. And so,
Right.
the,
I guess, I guess to kind of refocus what I'm talking about is once CSD says you're eligible to start school and we open the doors, then the whole aquarium fishbowl that we're in, suddenly all the curtains are gone and everybody's looking.
yes.
Is that a
And then
reasonable way to put it?
Then you get to see all of the big fish. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or, okay.
And in the beginning, schools did not, a lot of the schools that are in existence today and are successful, fine charter schools, didn't have the opportunity to have a robust implementation year. And
Sure.
and so, our aim is to help prepare schools, because this is not easy, and to help prepare schools to be as successful as possible as soon as possible, because our kids don't have time for us to fumble around and get it right. And so, there's a lot of back and forth on the implementation year policies. And for example, one of the schools that's in their implementation year this year, in their November submission, their bylaws, I gave them a lot of feedback. Like, you can't say that in your bylaws, or you should say this in your bylaws. You can't have this many board members on your finance committee. If you're not, that's a quorum of board members. Well, on your audit committee, I can't make them not do it on their finance committee, but on your audit committee, you can't have that many board members on your audit committee, because it'll be a quorum. It'll have to be an open meeting, and the auditor won't allow those meetings to be open. And really think about whether you're going to have a quorum of members on your finance committee, because then all of your finance committee meetings need to be open to the public, and that's just burdensome. And so, then the school will, in some instances, if it's in statute, if it's in regulation, they have to listen to us. If it's just our guidance and best practice, they can ignore us. But, the Public Education Commission is the final arbiter, and they're the ones who will say in June of 2023 whether you are allowed to open or not. So there's been one instance in my tenure in which a school had to do an additional second implementation year. But I don't know the circumstances around that. That school, when they opened up, they were one of the schools that was closest to meeting their expected enrollment projections. So whereas other schools, some schools are very conservative and say, we expect we're going to have 60 kids in our first year, and they get 20 kids in their first year. It's really hard. This is not an easy thing. Parents might complain about charter schools or public schools day in and day out, but they are tricky characters to get to commit to making a switch, especially to a new charter school. So this is, one of the biggest, your building and your enrollment are two of the biggest hurdles to getting off the ground. Really being thoughtful in your planning and your recruiting, and just giving you the time to get a building and everything. It's a lot. So
you have fed us a tremendous amount of ingredients for how to make this work. And I personally am busy chewing and trying to digest. And I thank you very much for all that you have shared through this series of trainings.
Well, I appreciate that.
It's been absolutely eye-opening. And again, thank you very much for all of what you have put into it.
Well, you're welcome. And if you all do make it, anybody who does make it into the implementation year, then when you ask me questions like, how do I do this and how do I do that? I actually tell you and show you. I cannot do that for this part of it, because part of that is just, we want the best quality, highest functioning. It's not an easy thing to do. So once you get through this process, then, we really are giving you feedback. We're giving you guidance. We're giving you support. So to
Thank you in advance for that.
All right. All right. So I look forward to seeing your applications. Don't hesitate to email if you have any questions.
Thank you very, very much.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Missy. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.